Well, so I was gonna sand the primer flat, but it's not curing. The primer that I used didn't require a hardener, but this is not hardening. Look at this. I can peel it off with my hand. I've never even seen this before. Here we go, sanding the primer. Yep, that's how you sand. Typical primer. So once I peeled off all the crappy primer, I actually went to the store and bought some new stuff. That worked just fine. And then I've got, this is the advantage of painting it all gray, as you can see all your little holes. Got my all little ding-dongs filled. You can see there's like little green patches. There was one here. That's pretty significant. Just a low spot. Didn't even see it. Stuff like that. And I don't want to put it in 800. I'm just going to go ahead and buff it and see how far I get. It's going to be sick. I got all my paint buffed to a degree that I want it to. It's obviously not shiny like paint, but that's not really what I need for this purpose. And then now I'm using this mold wax. I don't know what makes it mold wax over regular wax. It's just pretty hard. There it is. There's my mold release wax on it. You can see the haze. I'm gonna let it cure overnight. Maybe I'll get back at it with the buffer, or I'll leave it. This is the spot that was low. Besides that, everything's beautiful. Really happy with how this is all coming out. It's gonna be a nice freaking thing. I'm gonna lay down a mold today. Yes, it's incredible. The day is finally here. The mold release wax cured overnight. It's smooth, it's hard, you can't even like touch it. It's crazy. Love that stuff. Even over here. And all the stuff that was like, you know, I would rub my hand and kind of ball up, that's gone because the wax got hard. Just feeling around, feeling my work, feels good. Kind of obsessed with that. Looks great. I should have taken off the plastic piece under here. I tried to cover it up with some paper. We'll see what happens if I need to get another one. Kind of sucks. Should have thought about that. And then gonna put some PVA on this and start the mold. PVA is polyvinyl alcohol, which it's suspended in alcohol, and you can actually wash it off with water when you're done, but it leaves a little film on the plug so the fiberglass doesn't stick. I'm mixing up the gel coat. Well, that white stuff was some old gel coat that I had, but it just came out as gel and it wasn't a liquid anymore. And this is tooling gel coat. I probably could have used any gel coat, but I just wanted to experiment. 1 pint of this tooling gel coat was like 60 or 70 bucks, and it was not enough gel coat. I could have gone for 2 or 3 layers and I could only get like 1.5. I don't know. That price was ridiculous. I didn't want to buy more. And I rolled it on. Then I started laying glass. I started out with what I thought would be the hardest part. This right now is just cloth. And then I started moving to bigger pieces. I found out as I was doing more layers that I could have just done the whole hood in one piece and then like cut out certain sections. I definitely spent too much time working smaller pieces, and the resin was hardening on me a little bit too fast. And since I had put too many pieces on the hood, I kind of forgot how tight the weave was on my cloth. So when I poured resin over it, it didn't soak into the next layer. The resin didn't soak into the layer that was overlapped. And so then I had to pull back layers and try to soak some resin into those layers, and it kind of made an uneven finish. And then, as it turned out, when I finally pulled off the mold, there were little pockets of air because I was doing that. Got the first layer of fiberglass on, and now I'm cutting out all the little air bubbles because not that good of a fiberglass layer. That way I can put on a second layer and a third layer. It's gonna be sweet. I peeled out every single bubble. Let's see, there, big one there, big one there. And mostly they stemmed from not, well, like that, where there's a layer underneath that didn't get any penetration of resin. So then, like, that'll never be nice. So I have to peel it up and then try again, which stinks. Oh well. I got a couple layers of glass on. It's looking sweet. I did like the first little bit in chunks, but then I realized I could just do the hood in one piece. So like that went really fast. And yeah. This I obviously had to dice up a little bit, but there you go. Now I'm going to do some bracing. So using the properties of like an I-beam, right? If you turn a piece of wood like this and you stand on it, it's like a jumping board, like in the pool or whatever, like Joe Biden. But if you turn that same board this way, you couldn't jump on that board and make it bend. So we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put vertical slats all along this mold and go left, right, up, down, up, down. And I'm thinking I'll use this aluminum flashing. Don't know what it's being used for. Maybe it's for the roof, but it might just become mold material. I've got a lot of metal laid out. Just some aluminum flashing that I found in the garage. And I'll fiberglass over the metal. I might leave the tape. Just kind of depends how convenient it is to leave it. Got a lot more metal to put on. The spots that I'm looking for to apply my verticals are spots that will bend. So, you know, I'm looking across this entire piece of hood, right? It's probably going to flop left and right. And it's also going to flop back and forth like that. So I've got bracing here. I've got bracing across. I'll add more bracing. This side's more complete. You don't have to brace an area like this, right? Because there's a horizontal here, right? So it's probably not going to bend out horizontal. Same with the idea of this wheel well, right? It's all like this, so you're probably not going to get any bending like that. Same, you know, same with the eyes, but yeah. And then even in the scoop, right? I'm probably going to add one here, probably going to add one here. Because it will flex. It will try to flex. The top of the scoop, definitely got that braced up. And then all along here, that's just going to need one long brace. Yeah, it's coming good. I'm not proud of how this came out. I think I made a mistake thinking that I could lattice this all with metal, because to even cut the metal took forever because it's impractical the way that I have it set up, and you know, like, kind of want to deburr it just so you don't cut yourself, and that takes forever. I think I'm gonna stick with this and put glass over it, and I'm gonna regret it. But on the other side, on the actual part, I'm just gonna take a spray can of foam and cut the edges off of it, and I can lay glass over that, and I'll be able to get my verticals, and it'll be fast. And yeah, I mean, laying the glass on this too is gonna be a nightmare. I think the litmus test though will be if it's super duper strong, then I might reconsider. Looks like Spider-Man. Got all the bracing covered with fiberglass. Now I gotta pop this baby. Got the first part off. I think the rest of it will be pretty easy. I hope. I hope. Boom, it is off. There are imperfections. I'm gonna sand them flat. This is a really easy mold to sand. It's like really out in the open. Things like that. I'll just sand it smooth. I might even throw some primer on it. That would help. And definitely will buff it. I'll trim all these edges. Oh yeah. I trimmed up some edges right in there. Looks good. And then I'm gonna sand all of this stuff with 320, and it'll reveal a lot of what I need to fill in. And I left this a little bit too rough because I knew I'd sand it on this side. It's way easier to sand like that. Let's do it. The hood is all patched up. Just filled a lot of holes. And more will be filled with the primer that I'm about to spray. It's moving. This is how the mold looks with the primer. And there are holes everywhere. I really need to get a bag set up. It's not about, it's not about rolling out those bubbles. You really just have to get a vacuum bag. And a thicker gel coat, which I didn't want to spend the money on. I might get another can of primer, fill the first set of holes, then spray more primer on it, and hopefully that'll cover it. Or for the actual part, well, I think I really do think that the PVA that I'll put, the layer, will kind of fill some of these little micro holes. So, I don't know. Lots of work to do, lots of work. It only stops when you say it's done. That's the true thing about the work. Gosh, there were so many holes. I couldn't Bondo every single one of them. And spraying leaves too thin of a coat. So what I did is I would fill each little hole with as much primer as I could, and then hopefully when I sand it all flat, you know, these brush marks will obviously be knocked out. And hopefully I'll have filled holes. I'm sure there'll be like 10, 20 that I need to readdress, but this is a way better solution than trying to fill individual holes and then spray it. Look at that. That's a mold that's covered in wax. I gotta let it cure. I may even do another coat of wax after the first day of curing, because it takes 24 hours. I sort of lost my patience because I left it in 100 grit, and it feels like that compared to this. I'm gonna say it's gonna be okay. Really, that's awesome. The next part, I'm gonna make a part out of this mold. It's gonna be great.